Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another edition of Harbo and Harry Discuss.
Oh, I get top billing this time.
Oh, yes, you certainly do. But never again.
Oh,
this
God.
is the only
really?
time. Oh. Anyway, so we're back for another one, seeing as you guys just absolutely adored the last one.
They loved it. I was checking the comments. It was great.
They lapped it up, didn't they? Not so much on the live stream, though, unfortunately, but that's a story for another time. For those that didn't tune into that, we had a bit of a connection issue, probably on both our ends, because Harbo believes he's cursed.
I am. And every time I try to do something live, it's a disaster.
And on my end, I was streaming out 1440p at an absurdly low bitrate, so it was a recipe for disaster.
And you were playing Lego Star Wars in 1440p.
Exactly. So recording is going to definitely be the way to go now. I think it can't go wrong with that. So as you can probably see from the title and thumbnail, we are going to be discussing, first of all, the Suicide Squad.
Suicide Squad, yeah.
And then followed by a discussion of Star Wars: The Bad Batch, seeing as both are the Suicide Squad came out about maybe a week or two ago. And it is absolutely rocking the popularity charts. I think it's probably the film to go back to the cinema to go and see, if I may say so.
It's incredible.
I absolutely had a blast, and I've not spoken to anybody who hasn't enjoyed it.
Yeah, same. Yeah, everywhere I've looked, people have loved it.
Yeah, it's crazy because I can't think of... I think I went and saw Man of Steel in the cinema. That was the last time I went and saw a DC film in the cinema. I don't know about you.
No, okay, so you want to know the last DC film I saw in the cinema?
Aquaman?
No, Suicide Squad 2016.
Oh, crikey. Well, that's
I was
amazing.
dragged along, and it was awful. I hated every second.
I remember my partner watching it, not in the cinema, but I think it might have come to Netflix or something, and I just had no interest in it whatsoever. But
yeah, it was so bad. So, okay, obviously I don't know about you, but I do not do superhero stuff. I don't really bother with it. I've only watched a couple of superhero movies, and I don't care about Marvel. I just hate the MCU, and I barely watch any DC. I don't engage in any of that stuff. But that being said, Suicide Squad 2021 might be one of my favourite movies of all time.
Oh my god!
Yeah,
that is
legitimately
that wow.
Good.
I'm surprised by that, because I mean, maybe I'm just a bit of a snob, but I definitely wouldn't say it's like one of my favorite films of all time, but it is definitely a contender for one of the best films of the year thus far. Like, it is just so much fun.
Right. I mean, to be fair, I don't tend to watch that many films anymore. So.
Oh, right, okay. It's what happens. It's what happens when you become like somebody who covers TV and movies on YouTube.
Yeah, you don't do it for like
pleasure
fun anymore.
No.
Yeah,
I totally agree.
But yeah, so should we do a little bit like without spoilers first, and then we'll do like a spoiler section? You can probably throw up something on screen so people can scrub along.
Yeah, sure.
Something like that.
Well, just as you had your 2 cents about like how you came at this, I'm kind of the same in that I've never been big on superheroes either. It was only probably in about kind of when I watched Guardians of the Galaxy, I was kind of a bit more like tuned into it. My friend basically convinced me to watch all of the MCU from Iron Man onwards, and I firmly believe that it is worth doing in order to appreciate the Avengers movies. And that sounds kind of like a bit of every MCU fan will tell you that, but I've drunk the Kool-Aid and I definitely subscribe to it. The trouble is now, though, that Marvel don't really have a leg to stand on, because it's not all about the togetherness and having every movie feed into each other, because you've now just got series and movies that are just going off on their own tangents and not kind of accumulating, not working towards something in the end. So I'm no longer really interested in that, and maybe DC are realizing this. Well, I mean, for God's sake, they hired James Gunn, for God's sake, that.
Yeah. So I just want to say, going back to Guardians of the Galaxy, it's interesting you said that because those are my only two, like the only two MCU movies I like.
Yeah.
Are the two Guardians of the Galaxy ones. And like Logan is probably the only other like superhero movie out from.
That's not even MCU.
I know that's what I just meant, like superhero in general.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like those three, and then obviously you have James Gunn who did the only two MCU movies I like. Oh, now suddenly he's doing pretty much the same thing, but for DC.
Yeah.
And it's got Peter Capaldi in it. So I was like, of course I'm going to go give it a go. Why not?
Oh yeah, definitely. So yeah, I'll give a little kind of what the movie's about. I mean, for anybody that if you've unless you've been living under a rock, you're gonna kind of understand that the Joker's ex-girlfriend or girlfriend, I don't know, she and a bunch of misfits who are kind of in a prison. They have like superpowers, and they are essentially thrown at these impossible scenarios. And
well, like the important thing is like most of them have like they're not like super villains or anything. They're just kind of they're very much that Batman style of pretty much just normal people, but with certain abilities that aren't really innately special.
They're mediocre villains.
Yeah, and that's kind of the point of it. They're all D-list villains in a way.
And they're also human as well, which kind of makes it a lot more grounded, I suppose. But
apart from the walking shark.
Oh yeah, but I even that I wouldn't even call him like an alien. He's like a god. No, like it's kind of weird.
And he was an adorable piece of comic relief.
And I think that that's essentially it, because it is based in the DC universe, and I was there is for any Joker or Jared Leto fans, he's not here.
Yeah, thank God.
Not here. Because I heard that he kind of he only had about 10 minutes of screen time in the original. Is that right?
Yeah, he was massively cut out of the original, and the original was just so weirdly assembled. Like the Joker's kind of there for a bit, and Harley Quinn is very much the main character of the original one. It's all about her.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's all about her and the Joker, but the Joker doesn't really appear much, and he's shit because it's Jared Leto's Joker. And yeah, it was just everything about the original movie was terrible, including all that stuff. But that being said, Harley Quinn in this was really good.
Oh yeah. Oh, I think there was to say there was one segment in it that she basically had entire control over, and you're all going to know the segment I mean. And oh my God, like I think that was probably the best part of the entire movie.
It was really good.
Yeah.
Like so much, like the thing I liked about Harley in this was that she wasn't as dominant in the story as she was in the previous one. She was very much, she came in and out as she pleased, and because she doesn't need a huge backstory to be set up, it's Harley Quinn, you kind of know the deal. So they just they'd put her in, she'd do something, and then they'd give the rest of the time to the characters that actually needed it.
Yeah.
So I really liked that. It was a nice balancing act they did.
And it was good that I know this is going to sound really strange, but I've never watched a film with Idris Elba essentially as the lead. Like most things I've seen him in, he has been like a side character. I think of The Wire as one show.
The only thing I can think of seeing Idris Elba in before is Fast and Furious Hobbs and Shaw.
Oh, God.
Where he basically plays the character he plays in the Suicide Squad.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, they're pretty much the same.
I did just remember, though, that he was the main guy in Luther, but I wasn't a big fan of that, to be perfectly honest.
I never caught on that.
I mean, he's not really kind of doing an outstanding Oscar-worthy performance or anything, but he doesn't need to, because the comedy, the script is so well written behind him.
He's supposed to play like the straight man of the group.
Yeah.
Which it's like you have this very serious guy, and everyone around him is just an absolute lunatic, and he's just there, just being like, "How the hell am I supposed to lead this group?"
Yeah. Every single turn that the movie takes, he will kind of have this very confused, I can't believe that this situation could get any more crazier than it already is.
And he just has some great, very blunt British reactions to stuff.
Oh, yeah. I think that's kind of the... he really is a kind of audience focal point because as I've kind of described him reacting to all this stuff, that is exactly the nature of the movie. You can't honestly think how much crazier it could get, and then it does.
Yeah, it just keeps getting crazier and crazier, but it embraces just how ludicrous the plot actually is.
Yeah.
It's very self-aware. Not in a cringeworthy Deadpool way, but in just kind of that James Gunn, Guardians of the Galaxy way, where it's like, this is just insane, but it makes it fun.
Yeah, and even in like the tiny kind of boring moments of the movie, I remember one bit that it was when they were kind of getting the lowdown from the leader of the Suicide Squad. I can't remember that character's name, but
Waller. Amanda
Waller. Yeah. She when she was stood in front of them all and giving them all the big context to it all, and then the rat catcher who sat on the front row raises her hand and says, "What is that?"
Yeah,
and it's just like an old projector, and it takes you right out of it. But at the same time, it does it kind of because you weren't really paying attention to the details of this mission anyway, and neither were they. So there is definitely like,
and you just get a shock guy going, "Oh, yes, my hand" and stuff. It's just like it just kind of. Yeah,
it's the starfish. That's an asshole kind of thing. It's just brilliant. And even though it is like holding up the mirror to the audience in that moment, because it's like we're not paying attention.
Yeah, so it needs to be in here for the narrative to work, but we also know you don't really care, so we're just gonna throw in some jokes.
Yeah. Well, I've already gone and blown the lid off the spoilers because I've already just gone and ruined one of the jokes for you all, but.
Like shown in advertising, like Peter Capaldi just unveiled a massive fuck off starfish in a city in London or something like that. I can't remember where it was, but okay. I think now we'll get into spoilers. So maybe there'll be something on the screen, and if you scrub, it'll be gone when we leave spoiler territory.
There'll be a little skip to this part, as everyone else does. I just want to, while you've mentioned Peter Capaldi, I think that we should address. I think he didn't do enough. I think he was kind of thrown under the bus. Yeah. He looks
great.
What do you mean
thrown under the bus?
Well, as in, like, basically every scene that he's in with the Suicide Squad, he's just pushed into one room or another. He's not got much dialogue. I honestly wanted more out of him.
I really liked the standout scene when he was, it was kind of like a what would you call it? It would be like a reverse Doctor speech where he's just like, oh yeah, like, of course your government's involved in all this shit. Like, what do you expect? And he was just giving this really good speech to them about just like, well, of course they want to cover it up. Like, this is your government. So I thought that was a really good speech of his like bad villain monologue.
Well, that's definitely the highlight of it, but I wouldn't say that like he had enough to kind of
that's the
justify him being there. I don't know.
No, it's just, I suppose you could say it about half the cast. They are just there for just being there, which I think is not that bad when it's Peter Capaldi, because how much really can you get out of a character who's just got a bunch of shit stuck in his head and he's called the Thinker? Well,
they I think that they could have done more, because it's like, I think it was probably just overshadowed by all of the kind of political revolutionaries. They have more kind of I don't want to say story. Okay, character essentially. Like, I know that you kind of maybe it's done with more intent than I'm giving it credit for, because everyone knows the kind of stereotypical evil scientist kind of
exactly. That's all he's there for.
Thing.
He's just there to be like, oh look, there's a weirdo on the other side as well. It's not just normal people.
But I don't know. I was just craving, because I seen him in other things. I can't think of anything off the top of my head where. Oh no, I was thinking The Thick of It is a perfect example of when he really shines.
Yeah.
But I think that he was kind of, honestly, off the top of my head, can't think of anything. But there have been times where I've seen Peter Capaldi in things either as a guest star or as something else, and I'm craving more. But that's just like, me summarizing his tenure as the Doctor as well. But
no, yeah, the thing that really surprised me was how by the end of it, Ratcatcher 2 was my favourite character.
Yeah, I know, right?
I'm willing to make a declaration to the public. I now simp for Ratcatcher 2. She was amazing. Like, shit, no, because initially, your first introduction with her, it's like, oh, millennial jokes. Okay, it's going to be one of these characters. And then by the end of it, you're like, oh my god, she's going to get killed by Peacemaker. No, and not Sebastian the Rat as well. No.
Yeah. She was really interesting because, she saves the day at the end.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's not because we were thinking the whole time, like, she's not really had her chance to shine, but they were kind of keeping the bottle on the genie tightly closed until because that moment.
She was kind of the emotional core of the story. They gave her that backstory and everything.
Yeah.
But even then, you still expected her to get killed off, like Polka Dot Man was. Just, they do one little thing, just boom, right, they're done in the story. So it got to a point in that climax, I was terrified. I was like, right, when's she going to die? And then it was that bit, the fake out, when she's about to get stomped on. I was like, okay, that's it. I thought, is it Bloodsport? Is that Idris Elba's character's name? I think so. I thought he wasn't going to get there in time, that would be it. But no, they literally have pretty much the most, I want to say the most useless, but it's not really, but the most seemingly unusable, redundant character in the team actually save the day. Because it's like, okay, you can summon rats. How much can you get out of that? And apparently, a lot.
Well, it was probably something that we've just long forgotten, that, rats are kind of like historically speaking, the carriers of the plague. Like, they are
not specifically. No. It's actually the fleas.
I'm only saying that in the common association. We don't associate, like, I mean, I don't associate fleas, but now you've told me that I'm going to change my mind about it. But no, rats, carrying disease, they are bad. We catch them, we kill them, they are vermin, etc.
But you also see, like in the climax, they outnumber the rest of the world, basically.
Yeah, and the fact that even Bloodsport's one weakness being rats is perfect, because he's just having to embrace his fear in that final moment for the sake of saving the world. And then you get the
rewarding ending where Sebastian goes up on his knee and he's finally stroking. It's such like a good little character journey for a character who doesn't really have anything.
Yeah,
because he's just kind of there as he's a shooty bang dude. He's got a bit of a family crisis or whatever.
Yeah,
but. Yeah, I feel like they just, they handle all the characters perfectly.
And even with, like, the character deaths, I was, just because of the name of the movie, and that opening scene when, the first load of them just get absolutely massacred, annihilated.
They even kill off Boomerang, who I was sad about, because he was the only good part of the first Suicide Squad movie, so I feel bad that he was killed off after carrying the original. Yeah, it was him and Rick Flag and obviously Harley. Those are and Waller. Those are the only things they carried over.
That's interesting, because I was having this kind of dilemma about, obviously, I don't know. Have you watched Thor Ragnarok?
No, I haven't.
So the whole joke about that movie is that, and this also ties into Taika Waititi again. You may is he familiar to you at all?
Oh yeah, of course, I know the name. Yeah.
And he played Ratcatcher's dad in the flashbacks.
Oh, that was him?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
And I was just thinking, because of his kind of association with this movie, there is a lot of aspects that I have a feeling basically got the axe in the writing room, just like so with Thor in the MCU, you have the first two Thor movies, which are basically extending from underwhelming to absolutely appalling, and then Taika Waititi comes along and basically turns Thor Ragnarok into a masterpiece, because he just gets probably in the first 15-20 minutes he cuts away all of the established crap, basically, and then we have the actual amazing movie that is Thor Ragnarok. And I feel like they kind of had a nod to that by having the sort of first Suicide Squad knocked off at the start. And it's very interesting that you mentioned that, because if it, I had no idea if those characters were previously in the I don't know who directed the first movie, but
I can't remember
the not the Suicide. I can't even say it, bro. Not the Suicide Squad. Not the Suicide Squad.
I just do it by the year. I just go Suicide Squad 2016 or Suicide Squad 2021.
I did like I was just gonna say the polka dot guy.
Yeah, he was great.
I've never been so mortified by the visions of somebody with such like psychological damage, and how
seeing his mother literally everywhere.
My God.
I loved how they paid it off though at the end, where it's just a giant version of his mother just destroying the city.
It was even more disturbing because I had the when he was in like the nightclub, which I think was kind of a weird fillery scene anyway, but that was definitely the best part, him dancing with loads of.
I wouldn't call it a fillery scene. It's supposed to kind of because they didn't really have a chance to bond, so that's sort of their bonding moment, to be like, oh look, they're coming together as a team to kind of bring them together. So I think it was well made.
I mean, there might have been intention behind it, but that was, if any point in the film, like I just didn't kind of connect in that same way, because they're after the character who I found most underwhelming as well. They're just waiting for him, so the pace, it all kind of just it just sort of stops.
I personally thought it was a good scene, but anyway, back to the beginning scene. Obviously, I really like, because in the first one there was a character in the team, Slipknot. And
wait, Slipknot?
Yeah.
Like Wait and Bleed, Slipknot, before I forget. Oh my God.
I think his power was having a grappling hook or some shit like that. That's literally what it was. And they didn't give him any setup before the movie. They just got him out of a SUV and were like, oh yeah, Slipknot. And then suddenly like, okay, well, we need to show that they can be killed by having their heads exploded.
Right.
So let's just kill off Slipknot. He tries to escape, they blow him up. He literally doesn't do anything and they kill him off. I feel like the beginning of James Gunn's Suicide Squad was kind of poking fun at how like wasted that character was, because they're just like, oh yeah, I'm just going to bring a bunch of random characters in, throw them, then kill them all off and have one get his head blown up just to show it. And it works so much better.
Well, it's interesting you say that so am I right in thinking that the original Suicide Squad 2016 has the same kind of setup where the people, like the squad, are essentially being watched the entire time by a group of people in an office with a deploy button to blow their heads up at any point.
That's literally it.
Because I thought that was a really cool idea, but then I'm thinking,
it is. But the way they did it in the 2016 one is a disaster. They mishandled it. They only use it the once. It basically never comes up again. And
because that runs like throughout the whole film, doesn't it? Because when they turn around to go and kill the starfish, they threaten them with it.
Yeah, and they don't even care if they get blown up. It has to come down to the office staff to save them. So it's a good use of it. And also with that opening, because established characters like Boomerang died, throughout, characters like Rick Flag, he died. Obviously got stabbed in the lung by Peacemaker. You had a feeling that any of these characters could die at any point, which is the perfect setup for a story named The Suicide Squad. Is that there's always tension. It got to the end, and you see that once you get rid of Rick Flag, it's like, okay, well now I don't see any of these characters surviving. They might even do a Rogue One here and just kill them all off in the end.
Yeah.
So it actually had proper stakes to it.
But Harley Quinn could never die.
Oh yeah, I mean, apart from her, it's just her and Rick Flag were like the only ones I expected not to die.
Yeah. Well, I've got to say though that I mentioned it earlier, but that the whole sequence of her basically being invited in, dressed up to the president's place.
I loved that.
The song behind it, and them, essentially
just
shagging
fucking,
and then shooting. You know, it was
and
crazy.
Shooting him right in the fucking face.
Yeah, I couldn't.
Well, no, it was in the belly button, I think. But yeah,
wherever, it was just amazing. Like
it was so well done.
I was so kind of I was like, am I watching? Has this just jumped to a completely different movie here? Because it's like it's still obviously in the same setting, but I think that the way they kind of did those like transitions between one place and the other is like, meanwhile
so
with Harley,
character and variety, because it was like different characters have literal different worldviews. Like the scene where she's shooting everyone in the hallway, you see everything getting all Disney with birds and like no blood and stuff, and because she's literally fucking insane, that's probably what she sees.
Yeah,
it's just all these flowers everywhere. I really like that escaping scene.
I mean, I found it to be a little bit kind of what's the word? I thought it was a little too easy for her, but again, like you say, she's absolutely insane. I'm not going to, and I've not seen, any other, property with Harley Quinn in. This is just my first time seeing her on screen. So I'm not really sure how to kind of react to all this happening, but you say that it's just displaying her insanity above all else.
Yeah, I mean, that's the reading I got where I saw the flowers and stuff. I was just like, she is like completely nuts, and I think they show that in the movie itself quite often, that she is just completely off her rocker. Like,
it was just like prior to the flowers and birds and things kind of coming out of that, when she was kind of killing all those guys in the sort of, they were right near a bunch of cells by the look of it or something. I just kind of thought that her combat was so flipping fluent. And I was like, so did these guys do any kind of training? Where are their guns? What's happened? Like, it just seemed
a lot of people like plot armor and stuff. But then I feel like you had the earlier scene where Peacemaker and Bloodsport were just going through what turned out to be the rebel camp and just shooting and killing everywhere in their own creative ways. And you got to think, like, they had a lot of plot armor in there as well, because they were doing all this in plain view of other people who seemingly didn't notice them.
Yeah.
So I feel like there was plot armor for every character, but a lot of people focus in on Harley for, I don't want to bring up the usual argument, but a lot of people were annoyed because it's a woman. They're saying, oh, women can't have plot armor.
Oh, really?
Like Mary Sue, all that kind of stuff. But all the characters in the movie, like Bloodsport and Peacemaker, had plot armor at different times.
I
just think it's consistent.
If you want to, if you see it that way, I honestly, it was just the bit beforehand that kind of rubbed me up the wrong way, because of all these guards who are just completely unarmed for the sake of her getting out of there. It's got nothing to do with, like, honestly, that the bit with the camp, I was so kind of like, oh, this is all happening so easily, and then for them to suddenly reveal that they're the rebels, that was a good
comedic twist.
Exactly.
But no, I just think, like, the Harley escape scene, I mean, to be fair, you don't really expect someone to break out of that kind of compound, so the people closer to the cells would be like less armed because they're expecting people to attack from the front. So I feel like it does kind of make some sense that there would be less armed around her, and because she was hanging up by her hands, like literally hanging. You're a dictator in a random country, you're not going to think someone's going to escape from that. So I feel like it did make some sense that she was able to get out so easily. Mainly because of the music in that scene. I got quite a Tarantino feeling from that escape scene.
Yes.
It felt very Tarantino, with like the very gory deaths that she was inflicting on people, and just, it was very stylistic, and I enjoyed the hell out of it because Tarantino is pretty much my favourite director.
Oh, really? Okay, interesting. He's definitely one of my favourites as well. I think that I wouldn't lay the kind of, I suppose in my mind, if this dictator did know Harley as much as he kind of appeared to, because he basically selected her of all women to
that was the other dude.
Oh, sorry, that's what I meant. But just to go back to that, the segment before when that I really loved, he knew so much about her previously because he selected her out of all women, and then I guess You're probably right. Actually, it makes more sense that they would be unarmed in the sense that he probably thought he was going to handle her easier because he thought they were just going to fall in love and that be the end of it. The romantic guy, and it got the better of him. It got his life taken away from him. It was very well executed. I understand where you're coming from now.
Kind of overall, what would you kind of... Because a lot of people I saw... I did see some reviews and stuff saying that, the comedy was a bit tacked on and juvenile, or it was too edgy and stuff like that. What did you think of, like, just overall?
Honestly, if it was specifically towards the comedy, I found myself laughing at it throughout. I've got no issue with it whatsoever.
The comedy was perfectly done.
Yeah, it felt kind of, because obviously this movie is primarily, I'd have thought, geared towards teenagers. The main demographic of people that were in the cinema with me were teenagers, and they were all laughing, and I couldn't help but kind of, I suppose, regress about 10 years and laugh with them. I don't know.
I feel like that was helped by John Cena, because going in, I was like, okay, I'm not sure about this, but they played up his douchey character so perfectly.
Yeah.
He's just a meme as a comedy. Exactly. He is a walking meme.
You wouldn't put him in there for his performance, unlike perhaps Idris Elba. But it's...
they put him in there as a comedic yet still serious character.
Yeah, the way he transformed at the end was just absolutely like almost mortifying. I didn't expect it at all.
And it's like, I feel like only people like James Gunn could pull off something that kind of duality between a character who's basically there as a caricature of the actor portraying him, to then become a very serious villain who you genuinely fear.
Yeah. I think overall I'd probably give The Suicide Squad, before I cock it up again, an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I mean, I'd probably give it like a 9. I had such a blast with it.
Yeah.
It felt like such a breath of fresh air in every way. And even the little things, like, like you said, the transitions where it had the text as to where they were, it was always worked into the actual atmosphere. So it was stylistic and didn't feel just subtitle here. You know?
Well, I think that as well, they didn't even need them to be there, but because they were there, it was part of the almost self-awareness charm. And the charm. Exactly.
That's the difference, I think, between this one and the previous one. Obviously, I know you haven't seen it, but the previous one, it had no charm to it. It took itself deadly seriously.
Really?
And yet it had fucking putty patrol zombies from like Power Rangers running around, and boring characters. Everything was dark. Literally the whole thing took place at night. You couldn't see shit. They had a big beam into the sky. It was also boring and it had no character. Whereas this, it's all character. Like, it's just the whole movie itself is a character.
I wonder if they were trying to go for almost a fourth part to the Batman kind of Chris Nolan.
Yeah, they were trying to go for like on that Snyder kind of.
Oh, Snyder, yeah. Did he direct it? Maybe.
No, it was. Okay. It was Ayer, I think, was the second name of the guy. But I can't remember. It's not a name I'm familiar with.
No.
But yeah, it very much feels like it's trying to be a typical. Well, obviously not typical anymore because DC has very much changed its tone. But that kind of era of DC, where it's all dark and grim, and it just wasn't fun. This, on the other hand, it was fun, snappy, paced well. The comedy was great. The characters were all engaging. They weren't just caricatures and one-dimensional people. Because, like I said, you had your stories like Ratcatcher 2, who had a very emotional core to the story and you got invested with. And she went beyond being a D-list villain with a cute little pet rat and went to being the proper human heart of the movie.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right. Well, I think we've pretty much covered as much about that as we possibly could. Let's move on.
I'd say definitely go watch it.
Yeah. Oh, God. Yeah.
Definitely watch it. Definitely. If you're going to watch any superhero movie this year, don't bother with Black Widow. Just watch the Suicide Squad.
Yeah. Just go for the James Gunn factor. I wouldn't have gone. That's
pretty much the main
otherwise.
reason I watched it, was because it had James Gunn, so I was like, I might as well give it a go.
Yeah. All right, let's talk the Bad Batch.
Okay, so this is something, because obviously in the Suicide Squad, we were very much in agreement of most stuff. I feel like we're going to be very on different levels here. So
okay, well, let's
you start.
Well, no. Let's do a little experiment here. What do you think I think about the Bad Batch?
I think that you very much liked it.
That's it, is it? Yeah, just very much liked.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, from your premise, then I'm assuming that you didn't like it.
I didn't know.
Well, you'll be pleased to know that I didn't very much like it. I really, really loved it. No, I'm joking. Had you there? No. I honestly, it has some serious kind of ups and downs. I couldn't say that it ever really lived up to a moment that like the Clone Wars did, with one possible exception. But again, that's we have to think this is one moment in one episode in 16. Like,
yeah. And obviously, I will say, obviously, before we start criticizing it or whatever, there has been a pattern with these kinds of shows, especially you see with the Clone Wars and with Rebels. It got better as it went along. They got off to a rough start. They got better over time. So I will preface that I do know that. So I do expect the Bad Batch will probably improve in like season 2, which has obviously been confirmed for next year.
Oh, has it now? I had no idea.
It was confirmed between the first and second part of the finale, which obviously then immediately shut on all the stakes of the finale.
Yeah, that honestly, I think that there was a lot of the like last 5-10 minutes of the semi-final episode that I quite liked, but then because I watched that episode for the first time with a friend, and he was kind of like, well, what's gonna happen now? Like there doesn't really seem to be like a lot that they can do now that it's happened. But for those that don't know what the Bad Batch is, you're gonna be getting lost in a tangle of Star Wars cartoon shows that have been produced over the last 15 years. I suppose I don't know when the Clone Wars first came out.
It started in 2008 was when the Clone Wars pilot movie came out.
So yeah, if that's your starting point, right? We then that goes on for 6 seasons. It gets cancelled, and then Disney Plus basically revives Star Wars Clone Wars in typical fashion. You have the first 4 episodes are about the Bad Batch, a bunch of clones that have got super powers individually. So you've got Wrecker who's strong, Tech who's intelligent, etc. They all have their own kind of unique powers that make them stand out amongst the clones. And there's 4 episodes in the Clone Wars that they are based on. But I think you told me, Harbo, that the whole premise of the Bad Batch being a series was something they wanted to explore before Clone Wars got originally cancelled.
I'm not sure if the series itself, but those 4 episodes in Clone Wars series, like season 7, those were originally going to be in season 6 before it got cancelled. To the extent that they were even partially animated and everything. Right. I'm pretty sure you can actually watch them, but in their original states online.
Okay, so
but I'm not sure whether it was supposed to be a pilot or not.
Yeah, the point being that they made those 4 episodes, and then they made a spin-off show from a spin-off show.
Yeah.
And so we now have 16 episodes surrounding the Bad Batch. Even though I personally felt like that 4 was enough, I was happy that there wasn't any
there isn't
more.
Much you can do with them. And I think, I guess, now we can probably get into spoilers, I think.
I'm trying to think. There's not really much we can kind of talk about without discussing, because it is so long. So the first episode was an hour and 15 minutes.
Yeah, and because that essentially combined 4 episodes into one.
Yeah, and then the rest are all about 20 to 30 minutes in length. But I think this is part of the main issue with it, is that you have a lot of episodes where
nothing happens.
Yeah, exactly.
And I feel like, I suppose we can get into this without going into spoilers yet, but if you compare that to Clone Wars, there were episodes where nothing really happened, but they were with a completely different cast.
Yeah.
Like, but this one is 16 episodes of the exact same people all the time. I know there was like one where they barely featured, but in the Clone Wars, it would be like, okay, well, you have 4 episodes with Obi-Wan going on a thing. Now you have 2 episodes with Jar Jar and Padme going and doing a thing. So it's like, it was clear that they weren't really important, but it was still something. It was still different. It wasn't just feeling like nothing.
Well, the even more interesting part about Clone Wars, and as somebody who has watched every single episode of the Clone Wars, thick and thin, it's all worth watching. Like even though no, honestly, hear me out here. If I'd have gone and watched like a selection of the episodes, I don't think I would have had as much of a kind of enjoyable experience. Like I wouldn't have enjoyed, say, Cad Bane or some of the more minor characters who would just pop up from now and then. But then you kind of have this sort of the opposite effect happening in Bad Batch, where all those minor characters...
Yeah, all it is, it's Dave Filoni taking you on a rooftop London bus tour of his Doctor Who universe.
Oh, man, you could not have put that better.
He's saying, look at all these people I made. They're mine. Yeah, look at them. You love them.
Yeah, we don't really love the two
twins from Clone Wars season 7.
God.
But anyway, okay, I suppose now we kind of have to go into spoilers if we're going to be talking about characters, because I think that itself is kind of a spoiler. So So my main issue above all else is the recurring characters from other shows. Like there's, I think I worked out about 14 out of 16 episodes have a character from one of the other shows. That's
14?
How severe it is. Yeah, I think, well, it may be 14. I think maybe...
It's frequent, though. Like, it is definitely...
Yeah, I think it's only, like, the finale and, like, the Spice one. And it's maybe like 4 episodes don't. Because even War Mantle... the one leading into the finale had Gregor from the Clone Wars and Rebels. And even also had fucking Delta Squad from Republic Commando. They showed up. Like,
I think that they can work. I honestly think that because you mentioned the Spice episode, when the Pike criminal organization come along, they are the best part of that episode. Everything else is crap.
It's terrible.
But their presence is so ominous, and them like cutting off the guy's horn at the end. I honestly thought he was going to decapitate him. They are awesome, and yet, it's everything else. Like they go down into that mine shaft 3 times in that episode. Once to go all quiet, second when they're chased by the guards, and the third time to abseil down and hook up all the crates of spice that they dropped.
And it's like, this is basically the episode leading into like it's not a 3-part finale, but it's like it's a 2-parter with a lead-in. So like, but then this is the one before that, and it has nothing to do with any of those 3 episodes. You would have felt like it would have had a bit of a lead up.
Because I watched all of them again in order, I realise what you're saying. But when I did first watch it, I was happy that because prior to that episode, we had 3 or maybe 4 episodes of the Bad Batch going and sorting out some political rescue. And it got so tiresome.
Yeah. So that kind of goes to another point. So I will quickly say that the reason I hate all the recurring like other characters and stuff is mainly just because the Bad Batch themselves don't really have any character development or anything like that.
They're not bad at all.
Echo is non-existent in the series. He may as well have not even been there. And Tech is basically a droid. Like,
do you know what I wrote down when I was writing notes on this? I put Echo moans, complains, and acts as R2D2.
Yeah.
That's literally all he does.
The thing is, Echo doesn't even moan or complain in the one episode where he should be moaning and complaining. When literally, like, Kamino gets literally fucking destroyed, and he goes, oh yeah, whatever. Even though, it's the place he was born, the place he grew up, the place he fucking defended in an entire Clone Wars arc against the Separatist invasion, and he has no reaction to Tipoca City getting absolutely nuked. It makes no sense. You'd think he would be the one to react like that.
I totally agree, but I think the reason is because they essentially made the Kaminoans bad by having them put the bounty out on Omega.
But even then, you would think, like, because you get that random clone trooper in the Star Destroyer who, when delivering the report, he's like got a shaky voice. You think Echo would have at least a bit, like, feel a little bit shit about it. Like, because obviously I know the Bad Batch were bullied or whatever, they never felt like they fit in, but Echo wasn't like one of them to begin with. He led the life of a normal clone and then became an ARC, so he spent a lot of time on Kamino with a lot of people and, definitely had a connection to the Sissy. And he just, he didn't react in any way, which I felt was massively disappointing. It
definitely sucks as well that, like, when in the last episodes, when they find that the secret lab or whatever, and Omega keeps saying U4, but she's not talking about
Echo. He's just kind of awkwardly standing there because he's like, I wasn't born here.
I'm kind of saddened that he even joined the Bad Batch now, in retrospect, because everything that he kind of did, Tech does instead.
Yeah, exactly. They are two halves of one character.
Yeah.
So Order 66 happens in the first episode, right?
Yeah.
It's a really big development. It's huge for the universe. The Republic becomes the Empire, and they don't do anything with that. They instead just fuck around taking bounties for Sid on some random planet, and you don't see how the universe itself is changing.
I think that you get it a little bit with the kind of political episodes, but again, they're so boring.
That's the thing. They didn't make it entertaining when it did happen.
Yeah, the only other bit I can think of is when that Admiral Rampart has his whole, like, exchange your useless money for our Imperial credits
Exactly,
thing.
Yeah. It's like the first 2 episodes do it, and like the last 3 episodes do it. Nothing really in between handles much of the transition of government. And obviously, I didn't want it to be a political thriller or whatever.
No.
I just wanted to see just even the backdrop changing, in just little ways, being like, oh, well, we can't use this hyperspace lane anymore because it's guarded by Imperials. Or, okay, well, now, we have to use this identification to get, like the second episode, we have to use this kind of form of transport to get here and there. And you see it in the third to last episode where the clone troopers are getting proto-stormtrooper armor.
Yeah.
Or no, it wasn't clone troopers. These were the actual humans.
But I think that's just purely down to aesthetics, isn't it? There's no real kind of
exactly.
oomph about it. Because I, for the longest time, couldn't figure out why on earth the Empire would substitute clones with people.
Yeah.
But then they explained that it's all about volunteers, numbers, and the fact that they don't have to spend as much money because, they are probably doing so much galactic infrastructural change that is just going to take up the Imperial Chancellery to task. And so they have to basically cheapen out and... It
was explored heavily in the expanded universe, mainly pulling up on the fact that clones had the accelerated life, so they wouldn't even really live that long into the Empire era anyway, because they were only designed for short-term use.
Oh,
so
really?
That was one of the main reasons in the expanded universe. I feel like they didn't really mention that in Bad Batch, but it's more of just my issue is this is the first time, this is the furthest into the early Empire we've ever gone, in the Star Wars on-screen universe.
But what about Rebels?
Previously it was Rebels, but now obviously we've gone even kind of narrower into that gap between Episode 3 and Rebels. So you think you would see more of a change? Because now you just kind of go from Bad Batch, where it's like, some kind of new armor, to Rebels, where suddenly the Empire is already established. In Bad Batch, you just don't really see the foundation forming.
It feels like they're quite afraid to do a big time jump of some kind, because once they are we could have had a couple of episodes cut out in the first 1 to
definitely.
5, and just start them being, the mercenaries and the heist people.
I wanted to see more of them struggling with, initially working for the Empire. They go on one mission and immediately call it quits. Instead, it's down to like just one character, Crosshair, to have that arc of being like, I don't know, like this is what I'm designed for.
I think he was one of the most effective parts of the Bad Batch, in that he's right at the end you have him basically confessing, look, you haven't got any purpose here. You're just running around doing nothing. Exactly. And the best part is that almost like the bad quality of the heists and everything, you end up feeling kind of like,
he's justified.
You're kind of right here. We should have joined the Empire and seen where that went, because every time we have a Star Wars like thing, they get too good. They always get too good, and they never, like Mandalorian Series 1 started that way by being a totally neutral person. You didn't have the Empire, you didn't have this, but then going into the second series, it's all about the Empire and all these characters coming in to fight them off. And it's like, I did really enjoy Mandalorian Series 2, but there were aspects of it where I'm starting to worry a bit, because he's becoming too good. And I know that sounds really kind of weird, but I love that morally ambiguous kind of state where people do bad things for good reasons and vice versa.
I would say read the Disney Thrawn trilogy. It's set before and around the time of Rebels, with Thrawn as the main character, as a protagonist, and he's always justified in what he does. Even like his Imperial crew, you sympathize for them. Like they're not like twirling their mustaches going like, haha, let's genocide the universe. They're going, no, okay, we need to put down this rebellion because this rebellion is causing these issues with this trading line. This is our job to stop it.
It's always so black and white, good and bad, that it just becomes uninteresting after a while.
And that definitely hurt Bad Batch, because I wanted to see them, even if it was just the first 3 episodes, just kind of working out what they're supposed to be in this empire, and then kind of going on their journey of being like, right, we don't agree with these ideals.
Well, this leads perfectly into my favourite part of Bad Batch, when Wrecker, his chip activates. That bit, I was absolutely on the edge of my seat. I thought he was going to kill one of them at least. And unfortunately, he didn't. But
that's kind of what season 1 suffered with, especially in the finale, because part 2 of the finale is like a 30-minute long escape sequence. No one dies, not even a fucking droid.
Yeah, I know that. I was happy. I would have been perfectly happy if that droid had died, and because I was thinking, he's not really that big of a character. Exactly. But then I realized, he did kind of help Rex in the finale of Clone Wars itself, so there is a little bit of kind of loss to it. Yeah. But you're right. I definitely.
There should have been. Because I've got a friend who, she absolutely adores Hunter and was genuinely preparing for an emotional, an absolute, a meltdown if Hunter died. If any of them died, actually, she was going to absolutely lose it. But no, I feel like someone should have died in the team at some point along the way. Because it just feels like they're just spinning in circles the whole time.
Well, it doesn't help when you watch like the combat sequences and you find them just standing in open areas and none of them get shot. The only time characters get shot is when Wrecker will get shot in the elbow, in the shoulder. Yeah. And I've got to say that when Cad Bane shows up
I thought Hunter was fucking dead.
I thought that would have been the perfect
I thought they just killed him. Just like that.
And I'm going to go out on an even bigger kind of controversial line of thinking here. I honestly think that Hunter's the worst of the Bad Batch. I think his character is not interesting to me whatsoever. He is leader and nothing else. He has
they don't
Witcher
really use
sensors.
His tracking stuff.
He. Do you know how many times they use it in the series? Twice.
How many? Ooh. That's a lot. Because I remembered, because I remember I was thinking that, like, after about I think it was going into Warman, so I was like, they haven't used Hunter stuff, and then he used it in that episode. I was like, okay, now they're finally remembered.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like the characters are so weird, and every episode is literally them going, oh no, we don't want to do this because of perfectly logical reason. And then Omega goes, no, but friendship. And they go, oh, okay, Omega, we'll go do it.
I think, though, in a weird way, tactically speaking, because that, it was kind of building up to her being, I know it's honestly the worst thing ever that she plays that game and suddenly she's the team's strategist. Like, it doesn't make any sense. But I think that the main strategy that she kind of learned through the show is that, like, if the Bad Batch have friends they can count on, they're gonna be like, I don't know, better to stand against the Empire. I know that sounds cringe. I know that sounds kind of simple, but I like it, and I don't have a problem with it, only in the fact that she became the strategist because she played a goddamn game and won lots of money.
It happens in pretty much every episode, though. They go, oh, we have doubts about this, because it would never work. There are too many Imperials. You think, okay, they're justified. And Omega goes, no, but they helped us that one time doing that minor thing. It's our duty to go save them, no matter what the cost. And it's like, I don't know, it happens too much.
It's definitely like as the most prevalent in the two Twi'lek episodes, because that, the first part where I was like, well, the Bad Batch have not been in this at all, and then halfway through
that, to be honest,
that would have been fine, except for the fact that it then leads into a second episode where they
are all in, like, it's all about them.
They rescue them because friends.
And obviously that's the backstory to one of the Rebels' main characters, because everyone needs a backstory, and apparently she has to have had the same droid her entire life. Just like how Han Solo has to wear the same clothes his entire life and carry the same blaster, and Chewie has to wear the same bandana all the time.
That's interesting you mentioned that, because I was honestly thinking throughout this that they really rush into the Imperial state fast. And I know that they've got light speed, I know they've got the numbers, but I found things like the admirals have all got the same uniform they would wear 19 years later. They all have the same, it was in that episode with Gregor where all of the stormtroopers, they have the same sounding guns 19 years earlier.
This, because I've obviously been reading a bunch of books recently. I read Rebel Rising, which is about Jyn Erso, like charting her life between essentially the opening of Rogue One to when she's an older child, and you see bits of that because she's going around with Saw Gerrera for a bit doing all the Rebel stuff there. You see, and also there's actually no, it wasn't in that book. It was in the Ahsoka book. Bits of the universe. Initially, it starts with like Empire Day. You could just get it, that's how they occupy planets in the book. It's they show up, they're going, hey, a big victory celebration in the Empire. We're just going to bring a bunch of people for a parade, and they're just going to hang around. And now we own your planet. And that, like, you didn't see that in, Bad Batch. It's just, they just own every planet now.
Yeah.
Whereas in the Ahsoka thing, it takes place, it starts a year after Order 66 and goes for like a couple of years as she's hanging around. And, you see the Empire slowly taking on charge.
But I was just going to say that when we were talking about Order 66 and the chips kind of activating, do I think bring, accompanied by the fact that they don't work for the Empire, kind of bring the whole thing to a bit of a confusing conclusion, because like we say, they have to be good guys, and the tension that they had from the offset, that any of them could just snap at any time, was great. And obviously by the end of episode 7 they've had them all removed, and then after that it's kind of like, they are definitively good guys, which is kind of a bad turning point for me. But I think that there was something in the first few episodes that kind of rubbed me up the wrong way, and I could be wrong about this, but I was under the impression that the inhibitor chips was something that was a really tightly held secret that only, and the fact that Rex went through so much to get his out, And then when he shows up in front of the Bad Batch, he's like, you guys haven't had your inhibitor chips taken out yet?
Exactly.
Like, as though it's common knowledge. I'm like, what?
Well, because obviously, because you saw with the Fives arc, where, you know, Rex didn't know about it until after that, and then he started looking into it. And he didn't even know about it on the verge of Order 66. Yeah. Like, it was only because Ahsoka was there, and he had taken a knock, so that's why it wasn't fully functioning. And obviously, because it's Rex, he was kind of able to overpower it. But yeah, like, I don't understand why he's suddenly like, oh yeah, everyone should know about it.
Yeah, and even Omega is basically the same. She just talks about them like it's common knowledge. It's kind of infuriating, to be honest.
Fives literally got killed because he found out about it. And yet, like, now suddenly everyone knows. It's really weird.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, it's no longer a mystery because it's no longer a mystery to the audience how Order 66, it's now no longer a mystery to the characters, which doesn't make any sense.
Oh, and also I forgot to say, when we were talking about recurring characters, for some stupid reason, the opening, it's like, hey, look, it's Caleb Doom, you know, that guy from Rebels. Yeah, he's here too.
I was going to say, when I saw him, I thought, like, and he escaped. I mean, first of all, his voice is so deep.
I know, it was insane.
Threw me off.
He's supposed to be like a 12-year-old, but he sounded like a fucking 22-year-old.
Yeah, it was so weird. And the fact that he escaped, I was expecting him to come back.
Yeah, for it to be a bit of a story.
Now that you've said that he was in Rebels, I'm like, it's another character. Yep. Like, I thought they just made him up for that opening scene to kind of have emotion for the fact that his master, like, got shot to bits.
Yeah.
But
and obviously, speaking of recurring characters, I'm going to lock it in now, publicly. I'm going to make this prediction. Bad Batch Season 2, they meet Ahsoka.
Even though she'll have her own show.
Well, no, because her own show's set in, like, Mandalorian time. Yeah. So basically, in the book, she goes on her own a bit in hiding, separate from Rex, and they don't stay in contact. But then she joins, because she obviously knows Bail from Clone Wars. He comes and helps her, and she joins up and becomes Fulcrum. And then you have Rex gets involved with the Rebels during Rebels time. But I'm thinking, at some point, Rex is like, oh yeah, I have a friend named Ahsoka, if you can find her, you know, whatever. And then they get involved with the Rebels organization through Fulcrum and have one-off adventure with her before deciding, oh, I don't know if we can hang around, it might be too dangerous for you guys or something like that. So they're going to meet Ahsoka in some form or another in Season 2. Dave Filoni won't be able to resist it. Because she's already shown up in Mando. She's got her own show where she's going to fight Thrawn. So,
well, she's the fan favourite.
Exactly. She has to appear in everything. Except Rise of Skywalker, where it's just Jedi Woman, I think she was like credited as, which was shocking. I'm pretty sure that was the case, yeah.
She was in Rise of Skywalker?
Yeah, you know when Rey gets all like the Jedi talking to her? Ahsoka was one of the voices she heard.
I can't remember Rise of Skywalker. All I remember is all those horses running across that Imperial Star Destroyer. That was hilarious.
So Rey gets knocked over and, you know, she's on the verge of death, and then all the Jedis from throughout the series start talking to her in her voice, being like, believe in the power of the Jedi. And she's like, God. Oh yeah, now I can fight against Sidious. And yeah, Ahsoka's one of those people. I'm pretty sure she's not even credited as Ahsoka in the movie. Everyone else is.
This makes a lot of sense. I watched The Rise of Skywalker before I started watching Clone Wars. Okay, so that's why I missed out on that cameo.
There's a lot to unpack with Bad Batch. It's hard to kind of... It's a wide-reaching thing where you've got to bring into account everything else in the Star Wars kind of media landscape.
Yeah.
Especially because at the end of the finale, they go, oh yeah, now the Kaminoan woman, she's part of the fucking...
I know.
What's this, like, Grogu cloning thing with the... what's his name? Snoke. With the pickled Snokes. She's involved with all of that now.
Yeah, I thought that was a real weak sauce scene to end on.
I mean, it makes sense that they'd bring her in because cloning and everything, but that being like the final stinger of the entire season, it felt weird.
It did feel weird, and I think it's because like they in that in the semi-final at the end when the Prime Minister gets killed, they were like, we don't have need of politicians, but scientists, we need those. That was that is such a Nazi thing, for lack of a better
that's all you need.
term.
You don't need to actually show us going to the place. Like we can get that interpretation from that scene alone already.
Yep. I can't think of anything that is absolutely desperately on the tip of my tongue about Bad Batch.
No, I guess summaries kind of.
I think honestly, I would say that like when I watched it every week, I had more of an enjoyment of it, and then watching it over again with the final episode, it feels quite underwhelming.
Yeah, that's kind of the word I have for it. Because it took me a little while to get into it. I dropped it for a while, so I had to watch about like the first like episodes 2 to 6 in just all one, because I just didn't bother after the second one, I think. So I just had to watch a bunch. And yeah, I feel like I got into it kind of in the midpoint, and then it dropped off again, and I got massively underwhelmed towards the end. It just felt...
That's it.
It felt like it didn't really know what it wanted to be. It should have been something more general than just the Bad Batch.
Yeah, it has its peaks. Like at the end of certain episodes, like the Wrecker, Click, and Crosshair, his like involvement is definitely worth watching.
Yeah,
but overall, it's
very kind of weak.
I think maybe I should hold out hope now that you've mentioned the whole Clone Wars thing, like that there are better episodes.
Yeah, things get better over time, so we can only hope for that.
Yeah, I'm not even that kind of eager for a season 2, to be honest. I thought this was going to be the Bad Batch, and that was it. I was honestly thinking that we would have them all killed off, Darth Vader, like Rogue One style.
I don't think they're like... I think they're a bit below Darth Vader's pay grade, you know. I think Vader's got more like bigger fish to fry than just some random defective clones. Because they haven't really done anything big to cripple the Empire. So I don't think they would.
Well, hopefully next season they will.
They blow up the proto Death Star. But no, I know I've predicted Ahsoka, but I would also probably be willing to predict that at some point young Boba Fett will show up, because he was obviously a Clone Wars staple.
And they mentioned him as well, who is basically Omega's twin brother.
Gender swapped Boba. This is an out there prediction. I don't expect this to happen. But what if Omega shows up in the book of Boba Fett, because they made such a big deal like, oh, she's basically Boba Fett's twin sister.
She is. Yeah, she's quite young at that point. And when's the book of Boba? Actually,
I think it's at the end of this year. So probably.
No, sorry. When's the story?
Oh right,
set?
it's directly after Mandalorian season 2.
Oh yeah, then definitely. Yeah. I think that would be an interesting
thing.
But
I don't expect it. But I wouldn't be surprised if it did happen. I just wanted to put it out there publicly, so if it did, you can start paying me to read your future.
Well, we still don't actually... I remember right at the start of Bad Batch, they were like, the Kaminoans don't make things without purpose.
Yeah,
What's
and we still don't know
purpose?
what Omega's purpose is yet, so...
So we'll hopefully find out.
And also, I just want to end on one touch, something I found out last night after I watched the Suicide Squad. Sebastian the Rat, apparently voiced by D. Bradley Baker.
No
I'm not
way.
kidding. I'm not kidding. Even though all he does is do little squeaks and stuff, apparently that is D. Bradley Baker. So that's the link. That's why we've talked about both today. It's because of D. Bradley Baker being in both.
Well, let me then end that on a more positive note, because last time we definitely ended on a rather negative one. I think the fact that Bradley Baker voiced all of the Bad
that
Batch.
Is impressive. He is doing half a show by himself.
They honestly they're all so unique and like voice wise.
You forget it's the same person.
He honestly rocks the.
I wonder,
roles.
Do you think he gets paid for like more because he's playing so many characters?
Oh, probably.
Or he just gets paid for one role.
He's going to be in the studio longer than anyone else.
Yeah, he's going to be in there almost the entire time. But yeah, it's been lovely having a chat about those.
Yeah, no, I think that we have absolutely ripped open the rib cages and devoured the heart and lungs.
One thing we liked and one thing we liked a bit less.
Yeah, I'll agree to that, definitely. All right. Well, thank you all for listening, and
let us know what we need to do next time. What movies are coming up should we cover? Should we cover Free Guy? You have any interest in that?
In what? Sorry,
Free Guy, Ryan Reynolds' new movie, where he's like a video game NPC. It's got Jacksepticeye in it. It seems apparently it's good. So
I have no idea who Jacksepticeye is, and only outside of him being a famous YouTuber, I've never watched any of his content.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not. I'm saying like, they've got Pokimane in it as well. If you know her.
No.
Okay, it's a Twitch streamer, has like the biggest army of simps in the fucking internet. So it's got those two in it as supporting characters.
As we established in part 1, I live under a rock. I don't follow all this stuff.
If people want us to watch Free Guy, I guess we'll watch it. If not, I have no qualms with not bothering with it. It's not really a movie I'm really rushing out to see.
Yeah, no, me neither. But, it depends on how well this, because we're talking about two new things now. We'll see how well the video goes. But I think, just as another reminder in the stream, we discussed the potential of talking about Classic Who episodes. Yes. So if anybody would like to hear us talk about, I don't know, we could start at the beginning, An Unearthly Child.
I know we're going to be watching stuff like Twin Dilemma and Web Planet. Those are like some of the worst of the worst.
I want the best and the worst. I don't want the mediocre.
Should we do that
stuff
for some episodes? Like we kind of like we did today, where one good thing, one bad thing. Like one good Classic Who episode, one bad one. Think that might be a good idea?
We'll see what the comments come up with, because people will upvote the best stuff and we'll pick from there.
Yeah.
Amazing. All right. Well, thank you so much for having you on, Harbo. Amazing stuff. All right. See you guys.
Bye bye.